This is the duck, dove, goose sausage mix ingredients. I'm grinding them up here and in my mortar with the pistol here. It's enough for 3 pounds of meat. So if I was doing just 1 pound, for the ratio of 1 pound, I would use 1.5 teaspoons of salt, kosher salt. I use Morton's coarse kosher salt for mine. Szechuan peppers, I grind them up. I actually heated them up in this pan, then ground them up, put them in here. Garlic, fennel seed, black pepper, crushed red pepper flakes. So I have that over in my garden that I get dry, and then sage. But anyway, 3.5 teaspoons of Szechuan peppers, 2/3 of a teaspoon of garlic, 1/3 of a teaspoon of fennel seed, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1.25 teaspoons of crushed red pepper flakes, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of sage. That's my personal preference. Sometimes I put juniper berry in here as well, and I will grind this up. Like I said, this mixture is designed for 2 pounds of meat. The recipe I just gave you is for 1 pound of meat. Makes 3 tablespoons of this mix. Then for fat ratios, I go over to Eureka Natural Foods. I get pork fat, and if I want a 70-30 ratio, I use a 2-to-1 meat to fat, and if I want a 80-20 ratio, I use 4-to-1 meat to fat for that ratio. Get that all ground up. That goes from this mortar into my little bowl, and that will sit there until I'm ready to. I finish the grind, and that's pretty good. That's enough for 2 pounds of meat, and I like the flavor on that. And so we'll get going on today. What we're going to be doing in some combination is goose breast from last season, and then dove from this season, because we're finished with dove season and we're going back into goose season. Goose season starts back up October 7th this year, 2023. So we're getting all that game out of the refrigerator, freezer, defrosting it a little bit, enough that it'll go through the grind, and making sausage out of it. All right. Okay, so we have upland game today. That is a combination of, there's a feather. That's a combination of dove and bandtail pigeon that was in the freezer. We're pulling it out. Let it defrost a little bit so I can slice it up. Been slicing it for a little bit here before we started filming. Oop. It's gonna go away. We're gonna get a weight on it, and we're gonna do a 70-30 on this. So we'll be interested to see what we got here. Got a scale going. Get it balanced out. See how much meat we have. That was zeroed with the tray on top of it. All right, we are at 17.40, sorry. 17.40. We'll call it 16 ounces. And we'll get that put in there. Get that back. Now we want some fat, so I'm going to put half the fat in there. I need to zero that out again. Oh, there's some meat still in there. Let's take that out. Yeah, that's measuring it. Turn that off. Put that in there. Put it back on top. It'll zero itself out. There we go, 0. Okay. This is pork fat. $17.8. All right, so 8 ounces there. There's a little bit left there. So we'll just go with 8 ounces. We're gonna go with that. 8 ounces of pork fat. I'm gonna get that cut up. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of this blade that I'm using because I always mess it up. That's a little bit frozen here. It was a gift from Dog Joe Sang, a buddy of mine. Our sons were in the Scouts together. They both eagled out of Troop 99 in McKinleyville, California. Perfect. So this is that spice mix. And what we're going to do is we're going to put another little tray out there. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to use this coffee filter because we can. And it just happened to be there. How about that? Put the coffee filter on here. There we go, 0 ounces. Let's see how much total. I never did measure how much we had total. So 2.325 ounces. Excellent. Let's take that out. So we'll go with 1 ounce. 0.59, 0.8, 0.9 and a hair, 0.99. What does that do? Close enough for hand grenades, horseshoes, and atom bombs. 1.0 ounces. So we'll mix that in there. Turn that off. That looks excellent. All right. Next up is the freezer. All right, so now we're moving on to Goose. So in Northern California, we have duck season, waterfowl season, and one of the geese that we get in this area is the Aleutian. So these are all Aleutian goose breasts. It's a lesser Canadian. We're going to grind this up and make it into sausage as well, separate sausage. All right, finishing up here with the goose. I can already tell that this is going to max out my scale. So I'm going to have to do this in a couple different, probably three measurements to get the total weight on this. So there'll be more goose sausage than upland game. Perfectly fine. It all smokes and eats up deliciously. All right. So we wind up with, zero that out. 0, 0, 0. We're just going to add a bunch here till we max out. It'll probably beep at me and I'll take some out. I'm going to do the math in my head because I'm a genius. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm doing a calculator that you can't see. 20.56. Oh, too much. Back it off again. 20.61. Okay, we'll start with that. Zeroed out. 9.5, 11.9, 0.09, 17.26, 20.73. Cool. All right, 5.43. So doing the math, that's about 47.18 ounces divided by 16 gives me about 2.94 pounds. So call it 3 pounds of goose. All right, we're zeroed out here on our tray. And we're gonna do 1.5 pounds, so 24 ounces of pork fat. The, oops, you turn it on. The guys at Eureka Natural Food, the butchers over there, were fantastic. Walked in, told them I needed pork fat. They had plenty of it for me. They even asked what season was in and what hunters would be bringing in this time of the year. So we were at the beginning of deer season. So I suggested, you know, there's going to be guys coming in with venison or needing fat for venison. Bear season's in right now. We're going to need fat for that as well. So let's see if we can get 12 ounces here. That's 11.24. There's 12.23. So we'll take that, set it right here. There's also a little bit of pork in here as well. So got to account for that. Back at 0. There's quite a bit of pork in that one. Another 12. There we go. Use that. But yeah, they did a fantastic job. 3 pounds of pork, and we're trying to determine how much they should order in or keep around, so hunters that come in would be able to purchase fat from them for their grinds, for bear, venison. For me, it's the beginning of duck season coming up again. We're out chasing deer as well, and but I haven't put a deer in the freezer yet, and I will eventually. But right now I'm just getting rid of all the sausage from, or getting rid of all the meat from last year. Hope I just didn't mix all that up. Didn't reach in and get something that was from. So that's 11.73. There's 12.6. All right. We'll get this queued up. And good to go. All right, that gets all the pork fat and goose together. It'll work out perfectly. Had to go with a larger bowl. .325 ounces of mix in there. So we'll get that spread around. We're going to top that off with elderberry. So 3.35 elderberry. Along with our spice mix. We threw some over on the side there. We'll get that mixed up. Perfect. We are ready to go. Okay. So, had a little bit of time in the freezer to get this chunked up, or to get this more frozen. Let's see if we cubed it up enough to be able to grind. All right, that finishes up the goose first grind. Just get all that through there. We'll put on a different blade. We should go faster the second time. All right, next day. I'm gonna try and get these into casings. They're sausage casing, or sausage casing. Of course they're sausage casing. These are pork casings, not synthetic. Need electricity for this. As I try to stuff this goose casing with sausage, as I try to stuff this sausage casing with goose, there's definitely a learning curve involved. I wound up with 5 pounds of goose and 1.5 pounds of upland game. The upland game was dove and pigeon combination, but stuffing the casings instead of smash patties is definitely more difficult and time consuming. This will take a while, so I'll end up fast forwarding through this. The next time, I will definitely use my Hobart commercial grinder instead of my wife's KitchenAid. It wasn't a problem with it, it just didn't have as much force. I couldn't feed as much through, and it was a lot slower process than other times I've used the Hobart for elk and venison and that type of game. I ended up finishing with that sausage in links, spinning them into, or in long strands, and then spinning them into links. The goose and the upland game taste good, but was really lean. So I think the next time I'll use 50-50 meat and fat to get a fattier, more rich, less lean taste to it, more like your typical sausage, Jimmy Dean or what have you. If you have any suggestions, hit me up in the comments below and let me know. And then we'll just end out with, these are the sausage links. This is what they looked like last year, and this is what they look like today after I finish stuffing all the casings. We're going to end up enjoying these with a bunch of the guys from my old squad and department that are retired and separated, and start up goose and duck season for 2023. Take care.